What is up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studio. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous. It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do you go? DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote. And maybe you could have me. Oh yeah, I like to play for the people at your next event. You know, I like weddings and parties of all kinds. Video dance party karaoke jams have been what's going on lately. If you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Sunday, May 10th, 2020, Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Number 1, global coronavirus infections top 4 million. The global number of confirmed coronavirus infections has surpassed 4 million, Johns Hopkins University calculates, with more than 1.3 million of those cases in the United States. There have been nearly 280,000 confirmed deaths worldwide, including more than 78,000 in the U.S. Many experts believe both the number of infections and deaths are undercounted, since testing has fallen short in many countries, though there are efforts underway to change that. In New York, Governor Andrew Cuomo, Democrat, announced that 22 new testing sites are open, while encouraging residents to obtain tests even if they're not exhibiting symptoms, which would help get a true sense of the pandemic scale. This is according to Johns Hopkins University and the Wall Street Journal. Number 2, Fauci to self-quarantine after low-risk encounter. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, is one of 3 members on the White House Coronavirus Task Force who will self-quarantine after coming into contact with a White House staffer who tested positive for the virus. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director Robert Redfield and Food and Drug Administration Commissioner Dr. Stephen Hahn will also self-quarantine. Fauci's contact was, quote, low risk, end quote, because he was not in close proximity to the person, who has not been identified. His, quote, modified quarantine, end quote, plan is to work from home while occasionally going to his empty office, wear a mask continually, and get tested every day. He has already been tested negative. If he is called in to testify before the Senate next week, as expected, however, he plans to attend. This is according to CNN and NBC News. Number 3, South Korean president warns of second wave after the Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on Sunday reported 34 new coronavirus infections, the country's highest daily rise since April 9th. President Moon Jae-in warned about the risk of a second wave of COVID-19 later this year. Moon said the new cluster, which emerged after a man who eventually tested positive visited multiple recently reopened nightclubs in Seoul, shows how quickly the disease can spread. South Korea has drawn praise for how it has largely curbed the outbreak, but the latest development shows how difficult reopening can be, and Seoul's bars and clubs were quickly ordered shut down once again. Quote, it's not over until it's over, end quote, Moon said. This is according to the Wall Street Journal and Reuters. Number 4, Obama reportedly calls Trump's coronavirus response a chaotic disaster. Former President Barack Obama reportedly called the Trump administration's response to the coronavirus pandemic, quote, an absolute chaotic disaster, end quote, though he also conceded the virus's toll would have been bad, quote, even with the best of governments, end quote. The comments occurred during a leaked web call with former members of his administration. Obama has mostly refrained from criticizing Trump since the White House transition in 2017. During the call, Obama also reportedly urged his former staffers to rally behind his former vice president, Joe Biden, the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee, who looks set to take on Trump in what's expected to be a tightly contested general election in November. This is according to the Agence France Presse and Axios. Number 5, FDA approves first coronavirus antigen test for emergency use. The Food and Drug Administration issued the first emergency use authorization Friday for a coronavirus antigen test. The test, produced by San Diego-based manufacturer Quidel, can diagnose COVID-19 by detecting fragments of protein found on or within the virus present in samples collected from the nasal cavity using swabs. The test produces results within minutes, much more quickly than many other tests on the market, but the technology is also more liable to result in false negatives, so a PCR test may be necessary to confirm. But once production ramps up, so will the country's ability to test millions of Americans per day. This is according to CNBC and the Wall Street Journal. Number 6, Belarus goes ahead with VE Day parade. The coronavirus pandemic resulted in a mostly continent-wide cancellation of public Victory in Europe Day commemorations marking the 75th anniversary of Nazi Germany's unconditional surrender of its armed forces at the end of World War II in Europe. In Russia, which had prepared for a day of great fanfare, President Vladimir Putin instead presided over a muted ceremony as COVID-19 infections skyrocketed in the country. But in neighboring Belarus, a large parade was held in Minsk as President Alexander Lukashenko seems to remain unfazed by the threat of the virus. Lukashenko said it was necessary to, quote, honor our heroes on this sacred day, end quote. Belarus has reported 21,101 coronavirus cases and 121 deaths. But journalists have not been allowed to interview medical professionals or see what's happening at hospitals. This is according to the BBC and NBC News. Number 7, Tesla sues California authorities. Musk threatens to move company to Texas, Nevada. Tesla filed a lawsuit against local authorities in California on Saturday after the electric car maker was told by Alameda County's health department not to reopen its Fremont, California factory in the state while coronavirus lockdown measures remain in place. CEO Elon Musk, who has grown frustrated with the economic shutdown in the U.S., threatened to move the company's headquarters and, quote, future programs, end quote, to Texas and Nevada immediately. The Tesla maintains any manufacturing activity in Fremont. Musk said it will be dependent upon how the company is treated. Tesla said it developed a thorough plan that would allow employees to return to work safely, but that local officials did not respond to any communication efforts. The health department said it's been, quote, working closely with the Tesla team, end quote. This is according to Elon Musk and Reuters. Number 8, SNL concludes 45th season with another made-from-home episode. NBC's Saturday Night Live returned with another made-from-home episode that serves as the finale for the show's 45th season. Alec Baldwin reprised his role as President Trump during the cold open, where he served as an unwanted commencement speaker at a remote high school graduation ceremony. Former SNL cast members Kristen Wiig, who hosted, Tina Fey, and Martin Short all made appearances. Fey appeared during the episode's, quote, weekend update, end quote, where she hosted for several years alongside Jimmy Fallon and Amy Poehler. Actors Josh Gad and Danny Trejo also made cameos during the episode. This is according to Saturday Night Live and USA Today. Number 9, UFC returns to action. The Ultimate Fighting Championship returned to action Saturday night in Jacksonville, Florida, during the coronavirus pandemic, which has sidelined sports across the world, save for a few leagues like the Korea Baseball Organization. Multiple fights took place over the course of the evening, including the event's main bout between Justin Gaethje and Tony Ferguson, which ended with the former prevailing with a TKO in the 5th round. The win means Gaethje is the interim UFC lightweight title holder, although he removed the belt and said he'll, quote, wait for the real one, end quote. The fights were held without fans. This is according to ESPN. Number 10, Little Richard dies at 87. Rock and roll pioneer Little Richard died Saturday after battling bone cancer. The musician's son, Danny Jones Penniman, confirmed the news. He was 87. Little Richard considered himself the, quote, architect, end quote, of the music genre, known as rock and roll. And he, along with the likes of Chuck Berry and Fats Domino, helped shatter the color line on music charts, bringing what was once called, quote, race music, end quote, into the mainstream. AP reports. Richard was known for his skills on the piano and his vocals, as well as his fashion choices and eccentric on-stage personality. He sold more than 30 million records worldwide, produced hit songs like Tutti Frutti, Good Golly Miss Molly, and Long Tall Sally, and influenced countless musicians, including the Beatles. This is according to the Associated Press and The Week. That one hits me hard. That one hits me hard. I know I don't usually editorialize, but that one hit me hard. That's 10 things you need to know today for Sunday, May 10th, 2020. Happy Mother's Day. Hope all the mothers out there are having a wonderful day. This has been What Makes You Smarter. If you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. That's it for me. It's Keys Dan, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here. Peace. If you like what you hear, I encourage you to follow What Makes You Smarter on social media. Find it on Facebook at What Makes You Smarter, Instagram at What Makes You Smarter, Twitter at SmarterWhat, and YouTube. Username Keys Dan. Leave What Makes You Smarter podcast a review and subscribe. Listen to What Makes You Smarter podcast on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Podcast Addict. My personal favorite, learn with me on my podcast, What Makes You Smarter. And if you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Call 501-470-6386 and leave a message to set up a time for What Makes You Famous. Support What Makes You Smarter podcast using the PayPal, paypal.me/KeysDan. Email info@radiowhat.com. What Makes You Smarter is a production of Keys Dan Enterprises Incorporated at keysdan.com. Thank you for listening.